welcome to episode 2 of Daily Tips, Noodles, and Shreddin. This is Danny Marbin from Marbin, and this time we're going to be talking about harmony. Now, I'm going to give you the mother lode about harmony, the big thing that everybody keeps asking about when it comes to what to play over what, how to think about notes. You see, to me, music is really divided into 3 areas. When you practice the initial break, when you tackle the big problem of how do I understand music and how do I play music well, you got to separate it to 3 areas. Notes, pitch, rhythm, which is where technique is, how to play pitches in time, and then the last one is tone, sound, color. How to get different articulation, difference between instruments, all that. So harmony is really the study of pitch. And in Western music, we have scales. And it's very important to understand what a scale is. You see, with Marbin, we go to jazz colleges all the time and teach master classes. And we always ask the same question. And there was never one student or teacher in any of these jazz colleges that had the answer to this question. How do you define a scale? How many scales are there? Not one, okay? So there's obviously a lot of confusion, and a lot of people have kind of their own definition of what a scale is, but they'll say a group of notes. Well, is EF a scale? 2-note scales or 11-note scales? No, because that wouldn't be a useful definition. We use scales to play over chords. So we came up with a definition, by making the rules that are common between these scales. So here are the rules. First of all, a scale is an abstract thing. You never play scales, you think about scales. What's that mean? When I actually play something, I play a mode, okay? So if I play C major over a C bass note, then I'm playing C Ionian. I'm playing the first mode of C. But C is just that group of notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, floating in space. When I play it in the real world, it becomes a mode. And the mode has to do with playing a scale over a certain bass note. That's definition number 1, or rule number 1. Then the other one, the smallest interval we use is a half step. No quarter steps in Western music. So I know Indian music, Arabic music has quarter steps or microtonal things. We are not dealing with those. Another rule, it's cyclical by the octave. Every octave has the same pitches. So if I have E, F, G in one octave, the next octave is going to have E, F, G as well. No, not E, F sharp G. Every octave is identical. Now, the next rule is where it starts to get interesting. You never have 2 half steps in a row, meaning never F, F sharp G in any part of the scale. Why? So, harmonically, it creates too much tension. Now, at this point, a lot of people will talk about the blues scale, right? The blue note, or the bebop scale. Well, those things aren't scales. They're groups of notes that people call scales. They use that same word, but to me, they don't function in that way. Let me give you an example why not. So if let's say I'm playing rhythm guitar for Stevie Ray Vaughan, and we're playing in A, and he's playing some blues shit, like using that half step. Well, that's cool, but that's melodically he's doing that. Melodically you can get away with stuff. Harmonically, if I'm behind him and I'm putting that note in the chord, I'm going to lose the gig, right? It doesn't function harmonically. So there's a different amount of tension and dissonance you can put harmonically than melodically. Melodically, you can get away with things. So no 2 half steps in a row. And then the next thing you do is you look at the octave that has 12 notes, and you have to fill it up with as many notes as you can possibly cram there without having 2 half steps in a row. So think about it. If you play guitar, you have from E to E, from this E to this E, and you have basically 12 pitches to organize, and you can't have this shape in the middle. So it's like if you have this, like E, F sharp, G, That's acceptable, you know, that doesn't have any 2 half steps in a row. Anyway, when you punch in the numbers and you fill up those 12 notes without having, you know, 2 half steps in a row, you come up with 7 scales total. And that's all the scales there are. There are no more scales. I don't care who you are. I don't care, you know, that's as many ways as you can cram notes into a 12 pattern without, you know, without having 2 of them in a row. And some of these scales have modes. So we have 4 diatonic scales. Diatonic scales are the 7-note scales. We have C major, C melodic minor. I'm just saying it. I'm saying it in C. It could be in any key. So we have major, melodic minor. We have harmonic minor. And then we have harmonic major. So major is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Melodic minor is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Harmonic minor is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. And harmonic major is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. Okay, so those are the 4 diatonic chords. They each, or scales, they each have 7 modes, meaning each one of the notes within them can be the tonality you measure things from. But when you play them, they really give you every type of 1, 3, 5, and 7 with every type of 2, 4, and 6. So every chord tone with every possible tension. The other 3 scales are the symmetric scales. Symmetric scales are scales that are built on a repeating interval or interval pattern. So we have whole tone, which is like, you know, just whole steps. And that one has no modes, because wherever you start it, you analyze it the same. The next one is diminished, which is built whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. That's an 8-note scale, but it has 2 modes, because you can start it on the whole step or on the half step. And then the last one is called the augmented scale, which is built minor third, half step, minor third, half step, and it also has 2 modes. Or, sorry. Okay, so that's that one. So that's the whole spiel really on what scales are. Now, the cool thing about knowing how many of them are there and what they sound like, you see, theory is really giving names to sounds. And you can access these sounds. Like, to me, the thing that makes this a good system is it doesn't matter if I'm playing bebop or gypsy jazz or fusion or pop. I'm using the same system to choose the modes I'm using over the chords that are in the music. And, you know, when you know this, like let's say you're playing a certain style of music, when you listen to what people play, you all of a sudden have a name for their choices. And then you can use them to kind of play in a style. Like if you're playing old jazz, you know, kind of bebop and pre-bebop, then, hold on. So if you're playing kind of an older style of jazz like that, then your choices are really predetermined in a way to kind of play inside. A lot of people ask me about playing out. I don't really play out. I play in the chords, you know, and I choose. I really listen. Like, you know, with Marbin, when we write a new song, we play the chords and we check what kind of scale fits in every moment. Then we learn how to improvise by connecting these things. But let me give you the example of the song All of Me, okay? So All of Me goes like this. There's C, C6-9, E7, A7, D minor, E7, A minor, D7, G7. That's half of it. The first 8 measures repeat, so C6-9, E7, A7, D minor. Then it goes F major, F minor, C major, A7, 2-5-1 to C. So D minor, G7, C. Okay, so if I'm just playing the right modes over each one of these things, it tells the story of the harmony in a really clear way. That means I'm going to play C major over C, which gives me C Ionian. Over E7, I'm playing A harmonic minor, fifth mode of harmonic minor. Over A7, I'm playing D harmonic minor. Okay? That's the fifth mode of D harmonic minor. Over D minor, I'm playing C major, so that gives me D Dorian. And then again on the E7, it's going to be A harmonic minor. On the A7, A Dorian, which is G major. On the D7, D Mixolydian, which is G major. And on the G7, C major, which is G Mixolydian. So it sounds like that. So that second half of the song, C major, A harmonic minor, D harmonic minor, D Dorian. Now on the second ending, F Lydian, which is C major, F melodic minor, C major, which is C Ionian, D harmonic minor, C major, C major, C major. So another chorus. So I have access to these sounds to really outline the harmony and play a lot of cool lines because I know how, basically how to switch and when to switch. So I'm not even talking about phrasing. We'll get to that in later lessons and like how to choose which subdivision to play, how to groove. But just the notes, if you don't know where to press, if you don't know what notes, how the notes change with the music, then how can you even think about the more subtle things that go into great playing? So this kind of knowledge needs to be completely figured out. How do you do it? Well, there are only 7 scales to practice, really, if you think about it. So for me, you gotta, the modal thing is really just understanding music enough to make the connection to tell yourself, well, this is where I play that major scale, or this is where I play that harmonic minor scale. But it's just about the connection. When you practice patterns in a scale. Mentally, you got to know when to play that scale over what chord. And, that takes some time. But what I'm trying to say is that if you really reduce the problem, the magnitude of practicing scales to practicing these 7 scales and working your vocabulary inside them, then the thing of knowing what you have to do past that is just analyze the music in your mind to where you know how to connect that scale to whatever chord is happening. Let me give you another example of how this music is, or how this approach is great in a different style. So let's say I'm playing, every rock band has one ballad that goes kind of like the progression from Creep. You have like... So that's an E major to a G sharp major to an A minor. I'm giving that example because, unlike a lot of rock and roll, you can't really get away with any sort of pentatonic approach, playing a box or something. It doesn't work because that second chord, the structure of it really calls out for, pretty specific notes to be played, to be, when you're soloing. So over that E, I'm playing an E major. Not just a major scale thing. Over the G sharp, I'm gonna play C harmonic minor. Again, it's that 5th mode. It's a secondary dominant. It's 5 of 6. Over the A, I'm playing an E major scale, which gives me A Lydian. And over the A minor, I'm playing A melodic minor. So just listen to the sound. If I'm soloing, my lines are going to tell the story of the harmony. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see, it's, a lot of people might, in rock, to kind of get that inside sound, a lot of people will start playing arpeggios, which is a good thing, but it gets a little bit too classical, like etude. If you play that way, then and not putting any of these passing like tensions inside your lines, then it has like this feeling that's not very I don't know how to say it. It doesn't sound very intelligent to me. But when you have the ability to kind of play inside the scales, it has a different kind of thing to it. It sounds more in control, the way a jazz musician would play it. So again, if you don't understand any of this, it takes time, but really think about it. Try to think this way, and I think this approach is definitely in common with all the players I've ever liked, like Holdsworth, Metheny. I'm sure Charlie Parker thought that way. Coltrane. It's really. To me, it's the way to think if you want to get things done. So I hope this helps, and write me if you have any question. And this is my spiel about harmony. See ya.